There's something on your stove right now. You used it this morning. You will use it tonight. And every single time you turn on that burner, it is doing something to your body that a billion-dollar corporation spent 60 years making sure you would never find out. This is Quicksecret. And what you're about to hear is not a theory. It is documented, court-proven, government-fined. And it ends with a $10 solution your great-grandmother already knew. Stay with me, because the last part of this story is the part that changes everything. Let me start with a question no doctor has ever asked you. What kind of pan do you cook on? Not what you eat, not how much you exercise. What surface do your eggs touch every morning before they touch your body? Nobody asks that, not your cardiologist. Not the doctor who said your thyroid numbers are off and we should keep watching them. Not one of them looked up and said, "Tell me about your cookware." There is a reason for that silence. Pick up the nonstick pan you use most. Look at the interior under direct light. If you see any scratches, any at all, anywhere a spatula dragged, you're looking at an open wound in a chemical surface. A research team in Australia examined scratched nonstick pans under an electron microscope. A single scratch released an estimated 9,000 particles, microscopic fragments of synthetic polymer coating, released directly into the food in that pan, into your eggs, into your body. And those particles do not move through your body the way food does. They are not processed by your liver, not filtered by your kidneys, not broken down, not excreted, not exhaled. Scientists gave them a name based on that single property. PFAS, per and polyfluoroalkyl substances, the informal name is more honest, forever chemicals, because that is exactly how long they last inside a human body. A particle that enters your blood from your breakfast pan today will still be in your blood in 20 years. The Centers for Disease Control tested blood samples from Americans across the country. The result read less like a statistic and more like a verdict. 97% of Americans have measurable PFAS in their bloodstream right now. Not people near chemical plants, average people, people who buy groceries, people who cook breakfast. And the company that put those chemicals there knew about this before your parents were born. Let us go back to where it started. A DuPont chemist named Roy Plunkett was trying to create a new refrigerant gas in a New Jersey lab. One morning he opened a pressurized canister that had solidified overnight into a waxy white powder. An accident, a failed experiment. He ran tests on the powder. It was slicker than anything ever measured. Heat resistant beyond anything existing at the time. Nothing bonded to it. Not oil, not acid, not water. Nothing. DuPont called it polytetrafluoroethylene. The world came to know it as Teflon. The military moved first. They used it in the Manhattan Project to line valves handling uranium hexafluoride, one of the most corrosive gases in nuclear processing. Teflon did not corrode. When the war ended, DuPont needed a civilian market for their miracle material. They looked at the American kitchen. By 1960, Teflon-coated pans were flying off department store shelves. Eggs slid off without butter. Cleanup took seconds. The marketing almost wrote itself. And inside a DuPont research facility, the animal tests had already started. The chemical used to bond the Teflon coating to the metal pan was not Teflon itself. It was a processing compound called perfluorooctanoic acid, PFOA. Internally, DuPont called it C8. In 1961, the same year those pans were flying off shelves, internal rat studies showed that animals fed C8 developed enlarged livers, disrupted organ function, and abnormal blood chemistry. The reports were written. They were filed. They were read by executives at DuPont headquarters. The pans kept selling. By the late 1960s, industrial monitoring confirmed that C8 was accumulating in the blood of factory workers at measurable, persistent levels that did not decline over time. A man who handled the compound in 1965 had the same chemical load in his blood in 1990. 25 years later. His body had no mechanism to remove it. The chemical just stayed. DuPont documented this. DuPont kept selling pans. Then in 1981, something surfaced inside the Parkersburg, West Virginia plant that crossed into a different category entirely. 7 women working directly with C8 gave birth over an 18-month period. 2 of those 7 children were born with visible birth defects, facial malformations. One child had only a single nostril. The other had a structurally deformed eyelid, not a birthmark, structural deformity. DuPont's response was not a warning, not a shutdown, not a letter to the local hospital. They quietly moved the pregnant women to different sections of the same plant. The line kept running. The other women still on the line were never told. The doctors treating those children were never told. The community was never told. This is Quicksecret, and this is only the beginning of the timeline. In 1984, DuPont's own environmental monitoring detected C8 in the tap water of Lubeck, West Virginia. The town sat downstream from a DuPont landfill where C8 saturated waste had been dumped for years. The chemical had leached into the groundwater. The groundwater fed the municipal supply. The supply fed kitchen taps, baby formula, coffee, children's glasses of water after school. DuPont knew in 1984 They told no one. For 15 more years, the people of that valley drank that water. The reckoning came from an unexpected direction. In 1998, a cattle farmer named Wilbur Tennant walked into a small law office in Cincinnati. His herd was dying by the hundreds. Twisted spines, black crumbling teeth, tumors erupting from their sides. The creek through his property had changed color. He needed someone to listen. The attorney across from him was Robert Bilott, a corporate defense lawyer who had spent his career defending chemical companies. He took the case anyway. He drove to West Virginia, walked the land, sent water samples to independent labs. DuPont had been dumping thousands of tons of C8 sludge into unlined landfills adjacent to the farm for decades. Rain carried the chemical into the creek. The cattle drank from the creek. The cattle died. The chemical kept flowing into wells and bloodstreams. Bilott sued. In 2004, the EPA fined DuPont $16 million, at the time the largest administrative penalty in agency history, for hiding internal health data from regulators for over 2 decades. Pocket change against billions in annual Teflon revenue. Bilott pushed further. He negotiated an independent health study of 69,000 people in the contamination zone. 7 years, blood samples, disease tracking, health histories. In 2012, the panel delivered its verdict. C8 was probably linked to 6 diseases: kidney cancer, testicular cancer, thyroid disease, ulcerative colitis, high cholesterol, pregnancy-induced hypertension, 2 cancers, the chemical used to attach a coating to a frying pan, and DuPont had possessed internal evidence of harm since 1961. 51 years before that verdict. 51 years of grandmothers cooking breakfast for their grandchildren on poisoned cookware. Nobody told them. Not the doctors, not the government, not the company. Now here is what the industry did next. And this part is clever. After enough litigation and regulatory pressure, DuPont announced they were phasing out PFOA. They put it on the label, PFOA-free. It looked like accountability. It was marketing. Polytetrafluoroethylene, the actual Teflon surface, was never removed. Replacement compounds called G and X and PFBS belong to the same chemical family, same biological persistence, and their long-term health data is thin because they are too new to have been studied across lifetimes. The label changed. The chemistry did not. And there is another layer nobody talks about. What happens when the pan gets hot? Polytetrafluoroethylene begins to degrade at around 500 degrees Fahrenheit. That sounds extreme. It is not. An empty nonstick pan on a medium-high gas burner hits that temperature in under 3 minutes. A pan with thin oil reaches it during normal frying. Searing anything pushes well past it. When the coating degrades, it releases gases. One of them is perfluoroisobutylene, classified by the United States military as a chemical warfare agent with acute toxicity roughly 10 times higher than phosgene, the gas used as a weapon in World War I. Veterinarians have documented Teflon toxicosis in pet birds since the 1980s. Small birds, parakeets, canaries, parrots, have extremely sensitive respiratory systems. When a nonstick pan overheats in a home with a pet bird, the bird can die within minutes. It has a name because it happens often enough to need one. Now consider the person standing directly over that same burner, breathing the same air. The industry calls the human version polymer fume fever. Chills, fever, chest tightness, respiratory distress lasting hours. Most people write it off as a cold. Their doctor never asks about the cookware. The global non-stick cookware industry generates over $25 billion in annual revenue. The business model runs on one feature the industry never advertises directly. The coating degrades. The pan loses performance. The pan gets replaced every 2 to 3 years. Then again. 40 years of replacement pans at $40 each is a $500 subscription to a chemical exposure you never agreed to. Now let me tell you what existed before that system was invented. Before 1945, every American kitchen ran on cast iron. A single skillet outlasted the woman who bought it, then her daughter, then her granddaughter. Brands like Griswold and Wagner made pans in the 1800s, still being cooked on today, in kitchens. This morning, a properly seasoned cast iron pan is genuinely non-stick. Eggs slide, fish releases clean, and the surface that makes it happen is polymerized oil bonded to iron through heat. Food-grade chemistry that has been in use for centuries, releasing nothing into your food. That knowledge did not disappear. It was made to feel obsolete. Thrift stores have been holding it in cast iron for decades, waiting for someone to remember. Here is exactly what to do this week. Go to the nearest thrift store or estate sale. Look for heavy cast iron skillets 10 to 12 inches across. The brands to know are Lodge, Griswold, Wagner, and Birmingham Stove and Range. Even a rusty pan is perfect. Rust is surface chemistry. It comes off. Expect to pay $5 to $8. Take it home. Scrub the rust off with steel wool. Wash it with hot water and a small amount of soap. Dry it completely on a warm burner. Moisture is the only real enemy here. Apply a paper-thin coat of flaxseed oil to every surface, inside and out, then wipe almost all of it back off with a dry cloth. The coat should look nearly dry. Thick oil does not polymerize correctly. Thin is the rule. Place the pan upside down in a 500-degree oven for 1 hour. Turn the oven off. Leave the pan inside until it reaches room temperature. Repeat the oil and bake cycle 3 more times, 4 total layers. What you have after 4 cycles is a black, smooth, genuinely non-stick surface. No synthetic compounds, no forever chemicals, no particles in your eggs. A surface that improves every time you cook on it. The opposite of Teflon, which peaks on day 1 and degrades from there. Total cost, $8 for the pan, $2 for the oil, $1 for steel wool, $11, one time, for a pan that can outlive you and your children. Compare that to $25 to $50 every 2 to 3 years. $300 to $500 over a lifetime of replacement pans, every one of them releasing compounds your body cannot clear. One honest note. Cast iron is heavy, around 8 pounds for a 12-inch skillet. For people with reduced grip or joint issues, carbon steel is the answer. Same iron composition, same seasoning process, same nonstick result, half the weight. Not a compromise, the same solution in a lighter form. A woman named Margaret cooked on the same Teflon pan for 11 years. Silicone spatulas, low heat, careful cleaning. Then she learned what had been happening to the surface. She found a Griswold skillet at a thrift store for $6, seasoned it, and cooked eggs on it 3 days later. She said they were the best fried eggs she had made in years. She put the Teflon pan in the trash that night. She is going to pass the Griswold to her daughter. The story of nonstick cookware is a story about what gets buried and who profits from the burial. A pan that lasts a century does not generate repeat purchases. A pan that fails in 3 years generates 10 replacements per customer. The cookware business is not selling pans. It is selling a subscription to a product designed to wear out, using a surface compound the company behind it knew was harmful in 1961. 51 years before the health panel confirmed it. 51 years of families who trusted that if something dangerous were sold in every store in the country, someone would have told them. Nobody told them. But you know now. Here at Quicksecret, this is the work we do. We trace what was buried back to its source and pull it into the light. Because what was buried usually worked, and what replaced it usually profits someone who is not you. Go find the heavy pan, pay the $8, buy the oil, follow the 4 cycles, put it on your stove, and every morning you cook on it, you will know exactly what it is made of, and exactly why someone spent 60 years hoping you would never figure this out. Share this with the person in your life still cooking on a scratched Teflon pan. Subscribe to Quicksecret. What we uncover next goes deeper into what has been quietly entering your body through the packaging and containers you have trusted without a second thought.